What's up, Gould Miners? Today we welcome Greg Mohr to the program. Greg is the founder of Franchise Maven, a franchise consulting service that helps people find, fund, and start the right franchise. Kicking off the episode, Greg dives into why franchises can be a good investment opportunity and what kinds of investors are right for the franchise model. Later on in the episode, I didn't pull any punches. I asked Greg directly how franchises can continue to compete with this new wave of investors who are interested in buying small businesses. And while we do go into the pros and cons of owning small businesses versus franchises, Greg's answers might surprise you. And finally, we conclude the episode with Greg going deep into some of the trends that he's seeing in the franchise space and what we can expect to see with the franchise model in 2025 and beyond. Greg is a seasoned veteran when it comes to franchising, and I learned a ton in this episode, and I'm sure that you will as well. So without further ado, everyone, let's welcome to the program, Greg Mohr.
The Gould Mine Podcast.
Greg, welcome to the Gould Mine.
Danny, thank you very much for having me today, sir. I appreciate it.
You know, I'm so excited to have you on the show, Greg, and talk about a particular sector of the investing space that we don't really talk about too much, which is franchises, right? And I think you have a really interesting business model, and I want to dive into it. I want to explore it. But before we go into that, I'd love to hear your background. What got you into franchises to begin with? Did you begin as a franchisor, as a franchisee? Walk us through your journey that got you into the franchise consulting space.
You got it, Danny. We'll go back into the Wayback Machine for that one in a land far, far away. That was when we were back in high school. Back in my time, we all got jobs somewhere, usually at fast food places. When I was 16, and I ended up going to work at a Taco Bell. And I ended up moving. The Taco Bell world. I made taco shells and made burritos and all sorts of good stuff for people. I didn't know it at the time, but as I moved up in the Taco Bell world and became a manager, assistant manager, I was working for a lady that owned 50 Taco Bells, and she was what they call a master franchiser. And I went around helping her build up her restaurants and building up her teams. And that's the first time I've ever heard about a franchise. Didn't really register with me much at that time because didn't know what the concept meant. But ended up working with her for a few years. And that was then fast forward, 15 years as a restaurant manager, 15 years as a microelectronic circuit engineer, all that, going to college, getting a couple degrees, owning some other businesses of my own with a friend of mine. We both got laid off at the time. So we had purchased a dry cleaners together and storage units, and I had rental properties of my own. So when I got laid off and he got laid off, I got rid of my rental properties and I sold my half of the dry cleaners and the storage units to him, let him run those. And I remembered back to my time when I was working with that franchisor, and I said, I like that franchising thing. I don't want to work for corporate anymore. After 30 years, I am tired of that. Want to do my own thing. Don't have the latest, greatest idea. That franchising thing was really cool. Well, let's go check that out. So I went out there and went click happy on the internet. Had like 20 different franchise development people calling me all over the place. Finally got a hold of a franchise consultant who knew they existed. I did not at the time. And he got me into a great franchise. So in answer to your question, the first thing I did was become a franchisee. Actually, the first thing I did was work for a master franchisor 30 years ago. Then I became a franchisee on that one. Did a telecommunications consulting franchise for a couple of years. Drove around Austin, Texas, helping businesses with their telecommunications needs. But as that consultant was helping me out, I was thinking, I like what you do. You get to sit at home. So, every minute of your time is spent great. Plus the fact you don't have to commute, do it from home. I said, I got to do that instead. That sounds like a good gig. Sounds like a lot of fun, helping people out all over the U.S. and actually all over the world. Helping their dreams come true on that as far as business ownership. So teach me what you do. He did. Been doing that for 12 years and haven't looked back since.
That's amazing. And okay, so you first got in as a franchisee,
right?
And you saw, okay, this guy's doing something, and you thought that's interesting. Okay, great. So why franchises? If someone's listening, because we've got a lot of investors that listen to this podcast, a lot of people who are looking to invest into some type of cash producing asset, right? Or appreciation inducing asset, right? So either we're looking for massive equity growth or consistent cash flow. So why franchises?
The upside is huge with the franchise thing. I work with a lot of real estate investors on that, Danny, and there is, there's only so much that you can charge for rent on that. And then you have to have your occupancy rate. So you've got kind of some limitations there. With franchising, there's not a lot of limitations on that. Pretty much the sky's the limit on what you want to do. And there's many franchises where you could run them semi-absentee on that. So with that, you don't have to put your full-time effort into it. So it is a good investment in there. As long as and my investors like to use other people's money. So as long as the investment services the debt, they're all in, and then, they'll get loans for it. But it's a real easy way to get into a business where you can grow it and you can scale it greater than you can in a lot of other things. But the business world is a really great way to build and scale a business to wherever you want, to whatever kind of empire you want to build.
So, and that actually brings up a good point, right? The semi-absentee or whatever you want to call it. One of the arguments, right, or one of the definitions I would say of investing, right, there are direct investments, right, and so a lot of times direct investments require some elbow grease, right, and then there are more passive investments, so things that you can just invest into very passively. They require zero elbow grease, and you're just getting a return. And one of I would say the arguments against franchises, right, is that you do have to provide some sort of elbow grease, right? It's not like you can just set it and forget it sort of thing. It does require involvement, either that or you get enough of them, right? And then you hire a GM or an asset manager or somebody to actually oversee the franchises. But to kind of get that thing rolling, though, it does require a fairly significant amount of time. Am I right in saying that? Or am I accurate in that assessment?
It depends on your skill set. If you're used to putting teams together and you're used to managing managers and managing profit and loss statements, then probably not as much. I would say for the average person, depending on the franchise, and this is going to vary by franchise, you're looking at about 10 to 15 hours a week. Managing the manager, managing the profit and loss statements on there. So there's at first, when you first get into it, there's always going to be some elbow grease to do it. You're going to be spending some of your time. It's your money. You're going to want to keep track of it, and you're going to want to make certain that it works on that. As you grow and scale, it's probably going to, and you get used to the systems, it's probably going to be a lot less the more you go, because you've already got those teams in place, and now maybe you're just adding an additional of the same kind of franchise in a different area to you. So now your manager is just picking up another territory, managing another piece. You don't do anything more. Or you pick up different type of franchise within the same territory. So now you're marketing to the same people. But if you're a beginner and if you've never done this before and you're just stepping out of corporate world right now, there's going to be a fair amount of elbow grease in getting used to what it is you're doing. But as time goes on, it's going to be a lot less as you get used to it.
Of course. I mean, that makes sense, right? Just like anything else, you spend some time with it, you get used to, the daily tasks or whatever, and then suddenly, you can develop systems, processes. So what I'm hearing then, Greg, is that for someone that has a decent amount of business acumen, someone that's actually ran their own business or had a hand in running their own business, taking on a franchise may not be a huge like a massive learning curve for them, but somebody that's coming from corporate or hasn't really run their own business or run their own team or managed a team before, they might be in for a little bit more of a learning curve, so to speak.
Absolutely correct, Danny. Absolutely. Beginners, yeah. You can still do some absentee. You can actually not leave the corporate world. You could stay in the corporate world and just run a semi-absentee, but keep in mind, you're going to be putting some time into it, some effort into it.
Yep.
You got the help of the franchisor, but if you've never done it before, you're going to want to learn a lot. You're going to need to learn a lot.
Yeah, 100%. So, I mean, wow. I have a lot of questions swirling in my head. I'm curious, for someone who is just getting into franchises, what kinds of franchises do you recommend? Like fast food franchises? Because I feel like, I feel like maybe there's different sectors, and different sectors have different, pros, cons, things that these skill sets that you can leverage from other, businesses that you've run before. But if someone someone's coming to you, say from, I don't know, I'm in Silicon Valley, so we'll say tech, right? They've made a lot of money in tech and now they want to get into the franchise world. What are the types of franchises that you'd recommend to somebody that wants to do that? The kind that you feel good about and you could picture yourself doing. So kind of a vague answer to your question, Danny, on that one. There are many different types of franchises, anywhere from, like you're mentioning, the restaurants, the brick and mortar franchises, larger investment, you build it, they will come, general theme, fairly easy to operate. Then you have your service industry franchises where your clients don't necessarily know you exist until they need you. So you have a great franchise system that drives people to you when that need arises. Those are around 150,000, give or take. Brick and mortar is 300,000 plus on the total investment. Doesn't matter which one you get into as far as how much you can make. They're all going to be pretty close. Each one varies a little bit on that one. That's not the deciding factor necessarily. It's really what type of business do you see yourself in, you picture yourself in. There's no one, I'd say, franchise or industry that's necessarily the best for a beginner to get into. It's always going to be the one that you feel good about. That way it's easy because this is fun. This is great. This is not work. I have to put some elbow grease into it, but it's the kind where, it's really fun to do. I enjoy it. So, there's no real one answer. I got a whole list of questions that I take people through. But if you're doing it yourself, just look for the things that you could see yourself doing that, Fridays don't matter. You don't look forward to Friday. It doesn't matter. You don't dread Monday because it doesn't matter because you're just having fun and helping people out and making money. So in other words, you would recommend that they get into something that excites them versus looking at something that's exciting or something that interests you, something that you think that you would be willing to work on as a project, so to speak. Yeah, Danny, a lot of people come to me and they say, well, it doesn't matter really which franchise. I just want the one that makes the most money. It's like, okay, cool. Well, it makes life easy on me. I'll go pick out the ones where the industries are, producing the great amount of money. And what else? What else are you looking into? What else do you, what do you likes, dislikes? Well, we go through quite a few different things: skilled, unskilled labor, brick and mortar, service industry. So I'll present the ones that are making the industries that are making the most money, and I'll say this is them. And then I'll present a few more in different industries that maybe spark their interest a little bit more. And I would say 3/4 of the time, people will not pick the one that makes the most money. They'll pick the one that made really good money on that, but the one where they may not even know the industry, maybe not even ever worked in the industry before. But for whatever reason, and there's usually reasons behind it, and that's what I get to with my questions on it, they go for the ones that make good money, but they feel really good about. So if you think of the ones that make the most money, think of, let's say, at Micro on TV, Dirty Jobs. Those are the ones that are going to make a lot of money on that. Yeah. Oh, I see. Yeah. Not exciting. I was going to ask, you piqued my curiosity. Which franchises do you typically see have the best margins? Sure. Plumbing, restoration services, where you got to clean out a house that's been, fire damage, water damage, mold damage on that, electrical services, HVAC, you're getting in there and you're getting your hands dirty, and you as a franchisee are not doing that on most of those, especially plumbing and electrical, because you have to have a master plumber, master electrician. So you don't touch that stuff. And you don't know how. You don't want to. Yeah. Nobody wants you to touch it. Those are the kind of things where you're really getting in there and getting your hands dirty, cleaning stuff out that people will pay money for. And those industries generally make some really good money. Really good bucks. And only 1 out of 4 people that I show them to will generally pick them because they'll pick something else. Well, I had a lawyer the other day, same thing. Looking at the ones that make the most money, looking at things that she enjoyed, put her into senior care. A lawyer had nothing to do with senior care at all. But she chose that one. She chose to leave her job, not even do it semi-absentee, but completely leave her job and go into the senior care market because she felt good about helping others and it made some good money. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's the age-old question: do you want to be sexy or do you want to be rich? And like a lot of investors, they think they want to be rich, but in reality, It's kind of that perfect combination of the two. So it's interesting that you say the dirty jobs, right? The ones that people, I could see how some of those would make good money. So that doesn't surprise me. When it comes to companies, because, I've heard this saying before, and I hope you don't take any offense to it, but, there's a couple business gurus online that kind of like, talk ill of not talk ill, but kind of like talk down about the franchising model in general, saying that if your model was so good, why would you choose to franchise to begin with? Right? If you were making so much money, why would you choose to franchise? Why wouldn't you just scale the company organically? Right. So what are some of the reasons that someone would choose to franchise, as opposed to just like, growing the business and maintaining ownership and control of the rest of the locations?
That's the key thing right there, Danny, is keeping control, and owning all the other locations. That's a lot of work on that sort of thing. That's a big team of people. If that's your dream and that's what you want to do, you're going to be using your money to invest in all those different locations, and you're going to be the one that's going to be overseeing those. Obviously, you're going to have managers as you grow. So now you've got even a larger team of people on there, and you can only grow so fast. So that's like kind of a linear growth as money's coming in on that one. You go into franchising when you want to grow more exponentially, when you don't necessarily want to use your money. You're not going to get all the money as far as profits for you, but you've got a nice little annuity coming in. Generally speaking, royalties are going to be between 5 and 10%. That's going to be your money coming in. So you would go into franchising if you want to grow faster, if you want your brand out there quicker. You don't want to use your money to do it. You want other people to use their money to do it. And you're thinking about taking a different role in the business, which you will be if you become a franchise, or your role is going to be different. Now you're going to be a mentor to other people. You're going to be a mentor to hundreds, hopefully, of people eventually on that, because you're going to step back from the operations of that business itself, and you're going to be helping other people and show them how you made it, how you made your business successful. Now you're going to be helping other people all over the place and doing it. So if you want to become more of a mentor and don't want to have, be operations manager for all those different locations, you don't want to use your money for all those different locations, and have somebody else do it, a little bit different role. Great way to grow business exponentially rather than linearly. There's pros and cons to both.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I come from the hotel world. So yeah, I don't know if you knew that, but I definitely, see the value in partnering with a good franchise, right? Like if you are partnered with Marriott or Hilton, you've got a significant advantage in the market. And it makes sense to me why someone would also want to be a franchisor as opposed to just own everything. I mean, imagine if Marriott and Hilton own it, there's no way they'd be able to grow the way that they've grown, right? They'd have to own all that real estate, buy all those buildings. There's no way, it just wouldn't happen. And it's a great deal for the franchisor, right? Marginal risk and a lot of revenue. Obviously, there's systems and things that need to happen in on the back end, right? So as a franchisor, I'm just curious, right? Like you plan on franchising your business model. Of that 5 to 10%, how much of that is profit versus how much of that is like with all that realized revenue? What are the typical margins on the franchisor's end, right? How much margin are they making on their revenue?
I don't have a clue. That is one question I cannot answer on that. I've never asked them that. So think of this as a franchisor when you're growing.
Yep.
Yeah, you're going to get 5 to 10% off the top of your franchises on that one. So to do that, you're still going to need a team of people on that. So you've got your franchise development team,
100%.
And your franchise development team is going to bring in the new people. You're going to weed them out. I'm going to send somebody over to you. I'm going to say Danny's interested in, your Taco Bell franchise. They're going to have a development team that's going to take you through the process of investigating it, going through the franchise disclosure documents, the whole bit, until you sign up. Now you signed up, you paid a franchise fee, generally $50,000, one-time fee, $50,000 give or take. That's it. Now you got a team, your training team. You got a training team that you're going to have. It's going to have you, Daddy, come in there. They're going to train you. How do you run a Taco Bell? This is how you do it. And then they're going to have a real estate team, because we've got to find you a location on that. For brick and mortar, for the service industry, not so much. And then you're going to have a team that's going to be working with individual franchisees to help them grow their business. So a good operations team that's going to help them grow their business. So you're going to have a few people on there. I do not know. I've never asked them, Danny, exactly, what's the percentage that you make off that? They've all been happy. They've all enjoyed it. They're all smiles when we meet with them, usually, once a year at our annual convention. So they seem to be doing just fine.
Yeah, no, and I'm sure that it varies dramatically, right, per industry, or maybe it doesn't. Who knows? But that's interesting. That's really, really interesting. All right, cool. So just to play devil's advocate here, right? Because there's this new wave of gurus online that and their whole shtick is small businesses, right? Oh, go in there, buy small businesses. So I feel like these are competing philosophies, right? You have on one end, you have people say invest into small businesses, right? Buy direct from owner, invest in these small businesses. They make great margin. You can get in there, and then you've got the franchise model, right? Where you're buying a franchise, and presumably the margin, like if you're buying an equivalent business, the margins are probably fairly similar. Plus, you've got the franchise fee, right? So what are some of the pros and cons, right, of these dueling kind of philosophies?
The pros and cons. One, if you are looking and talking about going in there and buying a business that's already up and running, a private business that's already up and running on that one, you've got an immediate cash flow. Pro, that's a plus, immediate cash flow. You need to find out how involved the owner is on a daily basis. Does that business revolve around him? Will that business fall apart, or her? Will that business fall apart without him or her being in there? That's kind of a con, because if everybody's dedicated to the person that's running it and they leave, and you're missing out on a lot. And that's a challenge to find out, because that private business owner doesn't have to tell you. No, we're hoping just assume everybody's honest and everybody's open, and he's going to be tell you exactly how many hours that they work on that. So find out on that, how many hours are they putting into that, and are you okay with that? Or hopefully, they're not putting in many hours. They've got a manager running it. So these are things you got to find out ahead of time. You're on your own when you buy a small business on that. So we're hoping that you know something about the industry and that you picked out an industry that you're familiar with. Because at that point in time, any questions that you need to have answered, you're going to have to go find somebody to help you with that on there. But on the positive side, since it's your business, you're getting all the profit. You can do business anywhere you want, which is a pro, because most of the franchises have territory restrictions on that. You don't have to pay any royalties. Now, if you look at a franchise model, there are franchises where you can kind of do a better comparison, because you might want to purchase a franchise that's been in operation. You might want to resale franchise. So you might be getting the same thing there, but most of the time you're going to be opening up a new unit. So when you open up a new unit of the franchise, the very first thing, of course, is that now you've got a team of people behind you that's going to help you grow their business. So you never have to wonder or worry, what do I do next? Where do I go from here? As you would with the privately owned business. Because not only do you have that franchisor helping you out, but before you invest in that franchise, one of the things you should absolutely do is talk to as many franchisees as possible. Those are going to be your friends. They're going to help you grow your business. Because as each franchise gives out a protected territory, so privately owned business, no territory, do whatever you want. Great. Franchise got you a protected territory. You can't necessarily do business anywhere you want. So give or take that. But on the other hand, none of the other franchisees can come into your territory. So everybody's friends, everybody grows the business, nobody competes. So now you've got a whole tribe of people that are going to help you build that business. And the franchisor has already made all the necessary mistakes to get them to where they're at. So what you're really looking for there is do a compare and contrast. Is that franchise fee and those royalties, are they worth getting you to where you want to be probably at least 2 to 3 years quicker than if you were to go out and get a privately owned business or do it yourself?
Right. No, that makes sense. So really what you're buying, right? And I think everyone conceptually understands this, right? You're buying a proven process, right? You're buying a proven process, and you're buying into, sounds like, and this is something that I didn't really, this is actually kind of enlightening for me. You're buying into a network of other people that are running the same business as you. It's almost like, like a coaching program, right? You get into this coaching program and you've got a lot of other people from around the country that are all kind of doing the same thing you are. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, no, that does make a lot of sense. So just
you also get to meet everybody.
Yeah.
You get to meet all the franchisees that are in a franchise group every year, because every year that franchise is going to have a convention and they're going to get together. Mm-hmm. Where have we been? Where are we at now? Where are we going to grow to? And you can compare notes with everybody. Everybody works together. Really, if you're into that sort of thing, and you got to be, like that, really awesome way to do it.
So now, if you're buying a small business, and one of the pros for that is that you kind of get that revenue or that cash flow right away. Right. I would suspect that one of the things that you need to consider is whatever the projections are on the franchise side of things, right? Like, because they provide you correct me if I'm wrong, right, Greg? But I'm assuming when you buy into a franchise, they're probably putting together some sort of pro forma for you.
No,
right? Some sort of no, they're not.
No, that's one thing with franchises in the amount of money you can make is very regulated by the Federal Trade Commission. So if they don't have in their franchise disclosure documents under item number 19, their financial disclosures, what you can make, they cannot tell you that. So if they don't have a pro forma in there for you that they did, they'll help you pull one together. They'll probably have, most of mine have a blank one. And they'll say, this is the blank form. These are all the things. Go talk to the franchisees, and they will tell you, this is how many customers we got this first year. This is the average that the customer goes and brings in. But they will not necessarily, and most of the time will not have a pro forma for you saying this is how much you're going to make.
But someone like you, I'm assuming, would have some insight, correct?
That's a tough one too, because on my end as well, I'm not allowed to really come out and say, on this particular franchise, this is how much you can make. I can, if it's in the franchise disclosure documents, I can say, in the franchise disclosure documents, they're indicating that the average person, brings in, or the average franchisee with one territory brings in $4 million a year. They'll get an idea. No, you'll know by the time you're through investigating that franchise. I've got a list of questions for you to ask the franchisees, and every franchisee asks the question since the dawn of time: how much can I make? How long does it take me to get there? Well, what do I got to do to get it? On that, well, you will know. But no, a lot of that information up front as far as how much I can make. That's a really fine line with the Federal Trade Commission that you don't want to cross, and give that information out on an individual basis.
Now, are things like EBITDA or like net margin, or any sort of like margin information shared, like across, like, say, like you're buying into a Subway, right? Does Subway have like a general rule of thumb for like, hey, like this is our projected EBITDA margin on the stores? Is that
generally
something
not.
that they provide?
Generally, you will not see that kind of detail in there. You can obtain that again by talking with the franchisees and find out individual. But for the most part, what I've seen in the franchise disclosure documents is they'll have an app. They might have, some of them might have some of that information. This is your average revenue. This is your average. Oh, this is what we have for the average EBITDA. This is the top 25%. This is the bottom 25% on there. But there's so much variability between stores, and if they don't necessarily collect that information from their franchisees so that they have proof, if the Federal Trade Commission ever comes and says, you got proof on that. If they don't collect it, they don't have it. They do have to collect the top line revenue, because that's what royalties are paid off of. And that's the information that most of the franchises will have.
I see. Okay. Gotcha. All right. So let's flip the script here a little bit, Greg. I'm curious about your business model, right? So what you do, just correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that you provide almost like a matchmaking service, correct? Where you've got franchises who seek you out to go out there and find franchisees, or they say, hey, we're looking for more franchisees. Probably these are the territories that we're looking to expand into. And then you've got a bunch of franchisees, potential franchisees who come to you and say, hey, Greg, help me out. Which franchise is best for me and help me close this deal?
Yes. So my franchisors, and I get with them on a regular basis. They tell me not only which territories are they looking for, they also tell me what they are looking for in a potential franchisee, what makes them successful on that. So people come to me and they don't necessarily know which franchise they want to get into. They just know they want to go into the franchise business and start investing in there. So what I do is, Match.com and Realtor.com all rolled into one as one thing. So people come to me, Greg, I want to get into the world of franchising. I have no clue as to where to start. What do we do? Where do we go? Pretty simple. I got this pretty simple process for it. First call, ask me anything you want about myself and about franchising. Tell me about you. Right? Second call, we're going to go through, and I'm going to send them a questionnaire. Second call, we're going to go through my list of questions. Where have you been? Where have you been? What do you bring to the table? What is your skill set? Where are you at now? How much time do you have to invest in a franchise? How much money are you comfortable investing in a franchise? And then where do you want to be 5 to 10 years from now? That way I can develop a plan of action around and different franchises around franchisors that are looking for people like you. You're looking for a franchise like that. And it's going to get you where, and it's going to have within your budget range, with your time range, and it's going to get to you to where you want to be 5 to 10 years from now.
Yeah, man, that's a really interesting business model. I mean, and you're paid by the franchisors, correct? Like that's how you earn. Okay. So a franchisee can come to you just for the matchmaking part, but I'm assuming like if you're helping them put other things together, like that's not or maybe like there's different services that you provide to the franchisees as well, correct? Or is it all just kind of like, we're going to help you get in there and it's all covered by the franchisor sort of thing?
So it's all covered by the franchisors up until they sign this, I'm with them up until they sign the agreement and pay the franchise fee. I try to stay with them after that. I'm actually trying to add some more people into my group so that I know that when I put people into the franchises, I put them into really good franchises. So they're so busy, they pretty much ignore me. Thank you, Greg. See ya. They do still send me referrals, so they still do think of me every once in a while, which is good. But I'd like to expand out actually and get more people to go above and beyond what the franchisors do for them. But for the most part, as a franchise consultant, we take them through the process, go through the investigation process together, get them funding if they need it. We've got plenty of funding people, CPAs, franchise attorneys, go through all that information with them. A sounding board, make certain they get all their boxes checked, that they're doing everything they should to investigate that, getting them to make certain that they know what they're getting themselves into and that they are okay with it. And then they sign the agreement. And usually at that point in time, we're done. But again, I think one of the things I'd like to expand out to in the future is if there's anything else I can do to help them that maybe the franchisor isn't doing, or just a little extra help to help them build a business. I like to get into that as well. But for the most part, franchisor pays me and we're all done.
So just out of curiosity, someone wants to buy a franchise. So I'm assuming a couple things have to happen. Let's say that they buy a franchise. Let's use fast food because fast food is just easy for me, and it's like one of these things, right? So let's say they want to buy Taco Bell, right? Yep. What would the average? Does it depend on the area, or is it just like, hey, to buy a franchise is just like a one-time fee? But I'm assuming it's a lot more than that, right? So what are the funding requirements for a franchise? And then how does one go? Like, I'm assuming there's financing for this, maybe SBA I don't know. Like, you walk me through what that would look like.
Certainly. So depending on the franchise, so any franchise you get, for the most part, general rule of thumb, the $50,000 is a one-time franchise fee. That's to get all the information you need about the franchise, get you everything trained, we're good to go. The rest of the investment is going to depend on the type of franchise you get into. So when you're looking at that service industry where you may need a small office or you may work from home and go out and visit with your clients, you're probably not looking at more than $150,000 to $200,000, depending if you might need some equipment on that. Very simple to get an SBA Express loan. You put about $20,000 down. The lending company gives you $150,000 to $200,000, just drops it into your account. Good to go. When you get into a brick and mortar, going to be a little bit more into building that out. So it's going to be, you're looking at $300,000 or more, probably average around $500,000. So you're probably looking at like a 7 to 8 loan. So if your investment's $500,000, then the total investment is a total build out of the entire thing. So with the service industry, all you needed was to rent the small office, get some office equipment, do some marketing, maybe do a vehicle wrap, and maybe hire a couple people to do it. So not a whole lot there. Once you get into that brick and mortar, then you may have to build out that strip mall location on that. Generally speaking, franchises don't have you buy the real estate. A few do. Most of them do not. You just build out the little portion of the strip mall or little building there. 7A loan, put about 20% down. So if you're doing a $500,000 investment where you got a bunch of equipment, you got to put in chairs, what have you. Fast food, if you want to go that route, you're going to have to put in all the ovens, cash registers and all that. You probably put about 20% down. So you'd be looking at about $100,000 down on a $500,000 loan with 7A. That's usually other people's money. The other end of the spectrum is you can use your own money if you have a IRA or if you have a 401k plan from a previous employer. Previous employer is a key word there. You can do a self-directed 401k and you can use your money in the self-directed 401k. You create, my people do it for you, a C corporation, open up a checking account, C corporation's checking account, and with a self-directed 401k, you can buy stock in any company that sells stock, which is any C corporation. So you buy stock in your company like that. So that way you don't go into debt. That's what I did when I started my business because I did not want to go into debt at all. I believed in myself. I invested in myself, and it's a good way to do it. You don't have to keep it forever. I built it up to where, I had too much money in my corporation's checking account. So we switched it over to an LLC after a few years on that. But that's how you use your money, not go into debt, or you can use other people's money. And most of my investors like using other people's money as long as they invest with debt.
Oh man, no, that makes sense. So okay, just to clarify here, right? Because this is something that I was curious on. The franchisee is the one signing the lease docs. Then, are they the one signing for the lease for the
Correct.
commercial lease? Then typically, okay. So the $500,000 in that example would cover all of the upstart fees for opening up that location, including the equipment and all that. But that doesn't cover your monthly rent, right? We're not talking that's what that's including. You see what I'm saying?
You can have some of that included in there as well. So you can have included in there some operating expenses over the next few years in the total loan itself.
Right.
Generally
So
speaking,
like an interest reserve account or something like that, like a reserve account. Yeah.
Right. But generally speaking, no, at some point in time, no, you're going to be covering all that yourself. That's correct. You're correct on that.
Okay. Gotcha. Now, on top of that, though, right? So on top of your expenses, right? Your overhead to operate the business. There's a lot of franchises that also, on top of the royalties, right, and on top of the franchise fees, are also going to require you to buy their goods from their vendors. Correct?
Correct. There are it varies, but yes, that's correct.
Right. So all in all, what we're talking about here is the franchisor makes money in several ways. They make money on the at the beginning, right, for putting the deal together. Then on top of that, they're making money through their franchise fees, their royalties, and then all of the additional goods and services that they basically mandate that you buy from them, correct, or that you purchase from them.
Depends on the franchise.
Of course. I'm just saying, generally speaking.
So
right.
I know of one barbecue place that they make more money off of what they get from their vendors, what their people have to purchase, than they do off their royalties. Not a good business model from a franchisee's point of view. Some of them, those kickbacks that they get, they feed them back to their franchisees. They're just making money off the royalties. Better business model for the franchisee. Find out.
Right.
Always find out.
Right. And how would one find that out? By, obviously, I'm sure you had those insights, right? So you would know. But then why would
franchise
knowing
attorney.
knowing that though, why would anyone buy into that kind of franchise?
There may be other benefits. There may be just some things. They may just love it. They may just love the food. Food's so great, I'm going to take it anyway. A lot of people come in, I love that place. I love to eat there. I'm going to go buy me one. It's a lot different.
Yeah.
Eating that and then owning the business. So keep that in mind. But still, there may be, just because they're making more money off that doesn't necessarily, making more money off their kickbacks from their vendors doesn't necessarily make it a bad franchise system. I don't think it's the best in the world. I think that their main source of income should come from the royalties, because that means that their main focus is on their franchisees to make them grow as much as possible, because that's where all the money's coming from. That's the way everything works out best. I don't know why some people, maybe they just didn't ask. Maybe they just didn't look into it. Franchise attorney will help you out with that. I can look into that as well. We can find that information out. But yeah, from a good, symbiotic relationship, that franchise or it's got to be making money, most of it, if not all the money, from the royalties, so that they have that vested interest in getting you to grow as much as possible.
What are the top 3 mistakes that you see new franchisees make?
Not talking to enough existing franchisees. If you're talking about people who are just looking to do a franchise and just starting to get into a franchise, always talk to as many franchisees as possible until you start hearing the same thing over and over again. Hopefully good. If it's bad, walk away. Always do that. Always take advantage of resources that you don't have to pay for. Local Score Chapter is a great example.
Right.
SCORE. I think almost every city has one. I used them when I was looking into my franchises that I was looking at. I ran them by those folks. They're business people that have been in your area for a number of years. So they know your area and they know business with that. Chamber of Commerce is another good one. So always do that. And I would say don't let what's in fashion necessarily cloud your judgment, because just because it's exciting today doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be exciting tomorrow. So get to know that business model, where they're making their money, and what are they going to do in the future to continue to bring that in.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think that that's something that could very easily be overlooked by somebody, right? Is like, hey, what are the trends? But is this a recession resistant business model? Or is it just when the times are good, people want to eat their $30 kale salad, but hey, when times aren't that great, not so much with the kale superfood salad, depending on the area.
Yeah. How many yogurt places do you see around you now, Danny?
Oh man. Yeah, no, good point.
Yeah. How many did you used to see?
A lot more.
Yeah. We had a huge run on that. Great thing in passion. Let's do yogurt. And then. Yeah. Down to it. Bye-bye.
Very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very interesting. That's fascinating. Now, that being said though, right? There are a couple of yogurt places around me that are not franchises that seem to be doing quite well. I feel it's like one of those things but they've been around for a long time too. It's not like they popped up out of nowhere. So they kind of weathered that storm. Right?
Some made it. Some of the ones that have been around for a while, that have been doing it for a while, that knew their business and knew how to keep their business going, did it. But those other ones, those newbies, they just said it seemed like a fad. So they were popping up all over. They just went up, went down. So a little bit careful with what you invest in, the area that you're investing in, and what you're investing into within the area itself, and whether or not it can sustain it.
Yeah, that's a great insight, Greg. That's a great insight. Well, listen, we're actually running up on time here, Greg, and we've got a couple last minute questions here that I want to leave you with. What are the trends that you're seeing in the franchise space right now, and how do you see these trends kind of shaping the future, the short-term future of the franchise industry?
Pretty much what I've seen lately, especially ever since the COVID thing, was a trend in more people, getting into the world of franchising because it's sustainable, because it's better than having a job that is kind of fluid sometimes, and getting into more essential services that I've seen a lot of people get into. Those things that people need on a regular basis that they can't basically do without on there. So, there's quite a few of them out there. Obviously, the usual, heating and air conditioning systems you can't do without. Sure. Senior care, taking care of mom and dad. That's always going to be there. Plumbing, electrical. So I've had a lot of people really getting into that. Still have a lot of people looking at brick and mortar places. Healthcare industry is just huge. Getting human struggle. So those are really where I see those things that people are using on a daily basis. That people like. Though I still put many people into food and fitness and other things as well, because there's still a need out there. But I just see more of them trending towards what people absolutely have to have.
You mentioned something earlier, and since this is, I have a background in real estate, I'm genuinely curious about what you're seeing here. So I had a guy on my podcast last year. His name's Justin. Really smart guy, really smart guy. And his business model, he had been in multifamily. He was doing a bunch of real estate stuff, flipping and all that good stuff. And then he started buying franchises. And then what he started doing was buying strip malls, retail centers, and then he would own the real estate. And then they bring the franchises into, so that they own the real estate and the franchise. Are you seeing more of this? Is this like a thing that you're seeing, or is this guy just kind of ahead of his time?
He was a little bit ahead of his time. I'm starting to see it a little bit more as people are, as I'm getting more real estate investors in there. On there, that's just a huge, great way to do it. So you get the real estate.
Yep.
Like you said, you put the franchise in there, build the franchise up a year or two, sell the franchise. Now you made some money while you're building up the franchise. Now you made some money off the sale of the franchise, and now you're renting that space out to your new franchisee. So I haven't seen a whole lot of it, but I've seen a few people do it. He's definitely on the tip of the spear there, ahead of what people I think are going to start thinking about doing. With a senior care, a senior home, that's another great way to do it.
So you can, as a franchisee, you can sell the franchise?
Yeah, you don't have to keep it for 5 to 10 years. So your agreement's going to be a 5 to 10 year agreement. You can sell it at any point in time. You just tell the franchisor you're going to sell it. He or she will tell other franchisees in your area that you're going to sell it. If you're making money, they're going to pick it up. I don't get a whole lot of really great franchise resales because most of the time other franchisees will pick it up before it goes onto the market.
So just to confirm here, even though the franchisor can't disclose, I'm assuming that if you get a franchise humming as a franchisee, you could tell the other franchisees, hey, this one's humming. Do you want to come pick it up?
Absolutely. Even if you're like you, Danny, if you want to go pick up a resale franchise, you just say, give me your P&Ls. And the franchisee himself, he
can do that.
Simple enough. They can give you every little detail.
They can give you all the details, okay, gotcha. So it's just on non-existent franchise. If it's not if the franchise hasn't been running or operational yet, if that location is not operational, they can't share projections with you, but they can share past data with you.
The franchisor themselves can only share with somebody who's coming in to buy a new franchise what is listed in their franchise disclosure document.
Gotcha.
So they can't, they can't take a P&L from another franchisee and give it to them. However, what they do instead, and that's why you talk to as many franchisees as possible, is they send you over to other franchisees, let the other franchisees give you whatever they want. They can tell you whatever, because they're not the one you're buying from. They're just another franchisee. They're just another person. So and that's where you're going to get it all. And most of the franchisees that you talk to are going to be pretty darn blunt. They're good, bad. Otherwise, they're going to tell you, and they'll share that information with you because they were in that spot, your same spot at one time, and they wanted to know that information. So they're pretty open about sharing the details, and that's how you get those details.
Now, what kind of multiples are these things being sold on? Because I'm assuming, let's say a 10-year franchise agreement. If you're on year 3, you've got it up and running, and you've got a solid, but you've only got 7 years left on the franchise agreement. So I can't imagine that you'd be selling it like a a 5x multiple, right? So like, what do these things typically trade for resale?
They tried. It's their baby. They built it up. They tried at 5.
Yeah.
They usually sell them for 3.
Yeah. That's kind of what I was thinking. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, still though, right? Like, and that's actually, and then you got a great triple net tenant in there, right? So you could do it that way, or if the business is really crushing, just hold on to it. Right?
Great.
Like
even if there's franchises where you can do semi-absentee, franchises where the franchisor wants you to do full-time, once you get that business up and running, doesn't make any difference. As long as it runs great,
right.
Semi-absentee, and it's just an annuity coming in for you is basically.
Yep. Greg, this has been super insightful, man. And I hope this isn't the last time that we have you on the show. I'm sure that I'll have more questions for you. That's the problem with these episodes, man, is that I shoot them. And then at night, as I'm brushing my teeth in the shower, I'm like, man, I really wish I had asked Greg this question. So I'll have to have you on a second time. But cool. Before you leave the audience, Greg, I want you to, well, first of all, if you're interested in learning more about how to partner with Greg, all of that information will be found in the description below. We'll have all the links there to get in touch with Greg and whatnot, and to learn more about how you could work with him. Greg, why don't you leave the audience with one final gold nugget? Take it away.
It's great to have options. There's probably a franchise out there for everybody, but everybody is not for franchised. Good to have options. We'll find out if franchising is right for you or not. Come see me.
Wait, dude, that's a great little... That's one of the best elevator pitches I've ever heard, man. Gives them a reason to pick up the phone. I love it, Greg. Greg, this has been awesome, man. Thanks for stopping by.
Thanks for having me, Danny. It's been a pleasure.
All right.